Season 19 is finally here in Destiny 2, and we've got a ton of new builds, weapons, and artifact mods to take advantage of. This season is very focused on stasis subclasses. We have a lot of new stasis weapons as well as a lot of artifact mods that synergize with stasis subclasses. So I wanted to put together a build that lets you take advantage of all of those new mods, as well as mix things up, because I feel like it's been a while since we've really used stasis builds. This build gives us a ton of burst damage. It's great for almost any content in the game. I'm going to be running this in the dungeon on day 1, but it's great for those heist battlegrounds, Gambit, and Nightfalls. Anywhere you want to take it, you will be able to run this build. We're going to break it all down, so if you guys enjoy the video, do me a favor, leave a like down below and smash that subscribe button. But let's go ahead and dive right into it and take a look at the build. Starting out the build, we will take the exotic Mask of Bakris. This has the perk Light Shift. This replaces our dodge with a short range blink. After we dodge, we will deal 10% increased arc damage as well as 10% increased damage to any slowed or frozen combatant. While the 10% buff isn't a massive increase in damage, it does allow us to get some extra burst damage in against some of those tankier enemies in the heist battlegrounds, as well as any champions you might be going against. With that in mind, let's take a look at the subclass. We will be taking Marksman Dodge because it does have the shortest cooldown. You can also use Gamblers if you want, but the automatic reload as well as the shortest cooldown makes me want to use Marksman Dodge. The Withering Blade melee is very helpful this season, as we do have that seasonal artifact mod that makes our stasis melee stun unstoppable champions. I am taking the Duskfield Grenade. This makes it very easy to slow and freeze big packs of adds, allowing us to take advantage of Mask of Bakris even further. And our first aspect will be Touch of Winter. This buffs the Duskfield Grenade, making it bigger, as well as creating a small stasis crystal inside that you can shatter to set off a chain reaction. For our second aspect, we will take Grim Harvest. This is very important for the build. Whenever we defeat slowed or frozen combatants, we will create a stasis shard. Those shards can be picked up to grant us melee energy, but will also have a lot of synergy with the mods we're running for this build. For our fragments, the first fragment we're taking is Whisper of Refraction. Defeating slowed or frozen targets grants you class ability energy. This is very helpful since Mask of Bakris sort of penalizes our dodge cooldown. We have that 10-second period during the buff where our dodge is not regenerating. So this allows us to get it back very quickly. Second, we will take Whisper of Durance. This makes the slow from all of our abilities last longer, and it also makes our Duskfield Grenade linger for a longer duration. Next, we will take Whisper of Conduction. This makes it so all nearby stasis shards automatically track to our position. Makes it so we never miss any of those, which is very crucial because they're going to grant us a ton of benefits. Next, we will take Whisper of Rhyme, where collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of overshield, which lasts for 10 seconds. Picking up additional shards adds to the overshield and refreshes the timer. And finally, we will take Whisper of Hedrons. This fragment does so much. It dramatically increases weapon stability, aim assist, and airborne effectiveness, as well as increasing our mobility, resilience, and recovery stats after freezing a target with stasis. You're almost able to keep this up all of the time, and it grants us so many benefits. It's very nice for the build. Moving on to our mods, the first mod we want to take is Elemental Shards. This makes it so all of those stasis shards that we create count as an elemental well. This is a very unique synergy for stasis and makes it so we can constantly take advantage of all of the benefits of elemental wells. Because of that, we will also take Font of Might. This grants us a 25% increase to our stasis weapon damage after picking up an elemental well. Since all of our stasis shards are now counting as elemental wells, we can basically have this buff going almost all the time. The third mod we will take is Elemental Charge. This makes it so whenever we pick up an elemental well, we become charged with light. Again, with that stasis synergy, this will happen whenever we pick up a stasis shard. Because it's matching our subclass, we will also get 2 stacks of Charged with Light. To take advantage of those stacks, we will then take High Energy Fire. This grants a 20% increased weapon damage, and it does stack with Font of Might. So we can constantly have Font of Might and High Energy Fire going to increase our weapon damage a ton passively all the time. And finally, we will take Supreme Wellmaker. This makes it so whenever we cast our super, it drops 3 stasis elemental wells on the ground. This is very useful for boss damage. You can toss out your super, grant yourself Font of Might and High Energy Fire, so you always have big damage for those boss DPS phases. Now moving on to our weapon loadout, there are several different ways that you can do this. What I've found most helpful is to run a stasis primary weapon. There's a lot of fantastic new options that just got added to the game, and I am currently using the Disparity Pulse Rifle. I do need to lock down a better roll on this, but we do have anti-barrier pulse rifle this season, so that will help you out with champions, and this will get buffed by Font of Might and high energy fire all the time. You could easily swap this out for the Blood Feud SMG, which is also an overload weapon this season if you need to handle overload champions. For our special weapon, I am using the Forbearance Grenade Launcher. This is the Add Clear King. It's absolutely insane. With Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction, we can clear out packs of mods super easily, and because this is an arc weapon, Mask of Bakris will buff the damage of this every time we dodge. And finally, in our heavy slot, I am also using the new Stasis Linear Fusion Rifle, Fire and Forget. If you didn't notice, this is very similar to the Storm Chaser Arc Linear Fusion, and it fires a 3-round burst. This also has the perk Viced Stinger, which makes it so it constantly reloads itself. It's an incredible weapon that you're definitely going to want to lock down this season, but you could also use something like Reed's Regret if you have one of those from previous seasons. You could also change this loadout up if you want. If you want to use a stasis special weapon like the Lingering Dread Grenade Launcher or Riptide, both of these can roll with Chill Clip, which makes it very easy to slow adds, which will synergize with the subclass as well as Mask of Bakris. You could easily swap out Forbearance for an arc primary weapon like the Ikelos SMG, which has just been reissued this season and has some amazing perk rolls. As far as our stats go, I do recommend going for 100 Resilience. This is going to give us a 40% damage reduction, which is active all the time, greatly increasing our survivability. We will also have that overshield going from all of the stasis shards. And this season, we also have a very unique artifact mod on the chest, which grants a small amount of resistance to all damage dealt to you by combatants, and it stacks, so you can easily run 2 copies of this on your chest for even more damage reduction. You also want to prioritize high discipline, so we can take advantage of those Duskfield grenades as often as possible. You want to aim for at least 60 mobility and 60 recovery. Whisper of Hedrons is going to give us a massive buff to mobility and recovery, so you don't have to worry about those stats too much, but you want to have a decent baseline, so if we don't have that active, at least you're not struggling. Now, I do want to talk about some of the seasonal artifact mods we have this season. I don't have them all unlocked yet, but there's some very powerful options in here, especially for stasis subclasses. The first one that I briefly mentioned earlier is the Low Entropy Superconductor. This makes it so our stasis melee will stun unstoppable champions. This is a 1-cost mod that can go on your class item and makes it so you can deal with those unstoppable champions very easily. We also have Lord Kelvin's Basilisk, which makes it so our stasis grenades will stun overload champions. You can run both of these mods if you want, one or the other, but we'll be able to deal with almost every champion if we're also running an anti-barrier primary. In the final column of the artifact, we also have the incredible mod Weakened Clear. Whenever we use a grenade launcher, damaging a boss, damaging a champion, or breaking a combatant's shield will reload our stowed weapons and weaken the combatant. This is very similar to the mod Breach and Clear that we had back in Beyond Light. It's a 15% debuff that we can easily apply to any target, especially if you're using something like Forbearance. This mod will allow us to stack massive damage on an enemy while we have high energy fire, Font of Might, Mask of Bakris, and the Weaken Clear debuff all going at the same time. While this build is centered around the Hunter class, you can take a lot of these concepts and apply them to Titan and Warlock as well. All of the mods will work the same way, and they also have a way of generating stasis shards, so you can very easily run a similar setup on any other class as well. This season has a lot of incredible mods that synergize very well with stasis, as well as a lot of new stasis weapons that we can take advantage of using this build. I hope you guys found the video helpful. If you did, leave a like down below for me and smash that subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I will certainly try and answer. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one.